Hello. A month ago, I have uploaded a course showcasing a full architectural documentation workflow using Rhino as an alternative to the extreme duopoly that Autodesk as well as Graphisoft have over the architectural field. Monopoly, duopoly, you get what I mean. And with this video, I want to extend the theme of looking into less predatory alternatives that work as well, or in some cases even better, than their mainstream counterparts. In this case, we'll look at ZWCAD as a viable alternative to AutoCAD. The subscription-based model, where software is regarded as a service rather than a product, has been a thing that CEOs of large-scale corporations have been drooling over for the past 10 years or so, for a while now. If we look at the pricing, back in 2015, AutoCAD would cost you around $4,000, and it would be a one-time payment, and you would own it. You would have it. In 2016, Autodesk shifted to a subscription-based model where you pay $1,500 per year. So it's cheaper, but it's yearly, right? So it becomes something that you basically purchase AutoCAD every 2.5-3 years or so. And no one really complained. At least I don't see it I've dug around older forums, I didn't see it. But for 4 years, nothing changed. The pricing stayed the same. But then in 2020, the price increased by only $50. Just $50 is nothing. It became $1,550. And no one complained still. Maybe no one noticed, who knows. But next year, then, the price increased by $70. Now it's $1,620. Then, in 2022, the price is $1,700, $80 more. In 2023, it's $1,786. It's $86 more, and so on. 2024, $1,875, 2025, $2,030. Now you're buying AutoCAD every 2 years. Or you could think of it as your yearly rent that you pay per year is basically half of the property's value. The landlords are having fun. See why I have a problem with this? Why I'm making videos about this? But there are still out there pretty damn good alternatives. I talked about Rhino as an alternative to Revit, and clearly there were some loss of convenience. So it wasn't as convenient, and you had to get around it, right? There were different ways of how we got around it. But this is not the case for this video. ZWCAD actually holds up perfectly fine when it comes to heavy model management. It actually exceeds the AutoCAD's capabilities. And I will show it to you. What you see here are licenses for a one-time purchase, meaning that if you buy the license, you own the software. It will not go away in a year. You don't need to renew it. That's what I like. That's what I want to see. And also the prices themselves are what I like and what I want to see, considering that the alternative is $2,000 per year, and this is $900 one time. As we look at the different tiers for the licenses, we can ignore the right-hand side part, the MFG license, because that is for mechanical stuff, for mechanical engineering and whatnot, and it comes with libraries and so on. So that is not, for us architects, not necessary. ZWCAD standard is something that will get you through 99.9% of the project, of any project, right? But if you want it to be a little bit more advanced, I guess, for example, you're dealing with point cloud data or you're dealing with GIS data, then you go for ZWCAD Professional. It has all of the features listed here. I will not list them for you. You can see them. I also have a video talking about the point cloud management in ZWCAD. It's a 1-year-old video, but I think the information stands up. I will leave it in the video description below. With that being said, the ZWCAD, of course, has a student version as well. Just like any other company, they're trying to get you while you're still in the school. So they offer free software. If you go to, if you just Google for ZWCAD student license, here you'll see, the steps that you need to basically submit the application, and you just download the software and you get it. If you're not a student, you can still try it out for 30 days for free, and then afterwards they will ask you to buy if you want to keep using it. Anyway, that's enough about the pricing. The pricing is good, right? Let's move on to actually looking at what ZWCAD 2026 offers. It's quite similar, isn't it? The user interface, everything about ZWCAD is really, it makes it easy to transfer. And I know because I have done it. Even the command line, and if I just type in PL, polyline, enter, we're just simply drawing a polyline. The snaps are the same visually, they act the same. Even the snap icons are quite similar, right? If I look at the different object snaps, here are the icons there. So transferring from one software to the other, it's quite seamless. Anecdotally, sending over files, DWG files created with ZWCAD to users of Autodesk products, I haven't had any issues with that. Neither have I had any issues receiving DWG files from Autodesk products to ZWCAD. It all works. Can't really think of anything that wouldn't work, which is great. Then when it comes down to more advanced features, there are two things that I want to showcase. Feature number one is under parametric tab, we have these geometric constraints. We have these different constraints that enable you to make any model that any drawing that you make parametric into a parametric model, where you can actually change the values and the geometry adjusts by itself. That is great. That's what we want sometimes. And another one actually comes from the previous course, the Rhino course for design documentation, right? Where the biggest point of the biggest pain point was the lack of dynamic blocks. Of course, ZWCAD has dynamic blocks. They call it FlexiBlock. It's a dynamic block, right? So I will be showcasing that as well. All right, let's begin with me showing you parametric constraints and how those basically work. I will not do anything too fancy, too over the top. It's just to actually show it, or to show it in a simple manner. So I'm going to be using a polyline, and I'll just draw out some sort of a L-shaped looking thing. You can see that my the top here is not horizontal. I want it to be horizontal, so I will go into my parametric tab, and here under geometric constraints I can find the one that says horizontal, so I can force horizontality here. Bam, it's always going to be horizontal now. Now there's a problem here because I forced this to be constantly horizontal, so it needed to make a gap here. I don't want this to be a gap, so I will use coincident right here between this point and this point. Now, no matter what I do, well, I can't even move this point, right? But yeah, I can move it down. So as I'm moving this point, this line will constantly stay horizontal, while this point will constantly be locked in. So let's say I don't want this to ever be, one second, I'll get there. I don't want this line to ever be non-parallel to this line. I want these two lines to always be parallel. I can use this parallel tool right here, constraint here, between this element and this element, right? So now these two are parallel. I also always want the bottom to be horizontal, like that. And I want the end to, or actually, sorry, this line right here and the bottom, I always want it to be parallel, like that. And this line, I want to be parallel with this line. Okay, there we go. So it became, okay, let's try this again. Control Z from here to here. There we go. It matters which one you select first when you're applying the parallel, or not necessarily parallel, any geometric constraint, right? But now what I have is a parametric model which will always react to any changes in exactly how you want, right? How you have described the relationship between the lines. You can also have this dimension, right? So for example, if I do align dimension between here and here, that's my dimension 1, and you can see I'm off scale, right? This is a bad scale, doesn't matter. But here, if I just hit enter, I have my dimension here. I can actually go into its expression and I can write whatever dimension I want. So instead of 4, like I should have made a smaller one, this is 460,000 millimeters. Yikes. So instead of 460,000, what if I use 650,000, right? And everything applies, everything kind of works together. Then I can create more dimensions. So I can do a linear dimension between these 2 points, drag that one out, and I can write whatever I want. In this case, it's 2,365,000. So if I do just 2 million, right? Now this dimension is locked. And basically you can just play around with the dimensions and you can have a fully parametric model where you're just working with these different values and you're getting different variations of it. Hopefully that makes sense. This is a very powerful tool, a more advanced tool, and I'm sure that you already can think of multiple ways of how you can use that in your day-to-day work. So that's one thing. Let's move on to creating a flexi block, a dynamic block. All right, for the flexi block or the dynamic block portion of this video, I will do a semi-tutorial. Semi-tutorial means that I will be going fast. I will be going faster than what I usually do during tutorials, just to showcase the whole process and explain it along the way. So it is not something that, you know, is for teaching, but actually just me explaining to you why am I doing the things that I'm doing, so that you can see both the output as well as the strengths of this kind of a flexible dynamic block process or workflow. So for this, we'll make a table. I will create a rectangle at create a rectangle 0, 0, 1,000, 1,000. So it's a 1 square meter, 1 by 1 meter rectangle. I'll create preemptively a diagonal line. I will need it later. I'll make a circle, and the circle is going to be my chair, and the radius of it is going to be 250. I'll take the circle, move it up to 300 millimeters, so that there's a 50 millimeter gap here. The chair needs a backrest, like that. So I'll just offset it, offset the circle inwards, 50. I don't know why I did that. It was already 50. I have that, and I'll use the line tool, snap to quadratic, not quadratic, how is it called? Quadrant. Use quadrant snap to the circular quadrants, select all of the lines, trim, TR, enter, and trim away the excess, right? So now I have a chair. Simplistic chair. Then for the table, the reason why I have this diagonal is if I select the chair now and I use array polar, I can use the midpoint of this diagonal to rotate or polar array the chair around the table. As long as I choose 4 items, it's going to be fine. Hit enter. Hit enter. Okay, there we go. And then the nice thing about arrays is that they are remembered in ZWCAD, so you can adjust the settings for them even after you have finished the tool. So if I want 8 chairs, I can just change it up, which is nice. Not for this tutorial or this showcase, but for later. For now, I don't care about the arrays. Sorry, words. I don't care about the array being editable, so I'm going to explode. And if you explode the array, you're left with just separate items. Don't need the diagonal anymore, and the corners are a little bit too sharp, so I will use fillet on the corners with radius of, I don't know, 50. I'm using 50 for everything, might as well use it for the corners as well. There is a fillet corners, I believe, tool that you could use, but whatever, it's just for corners, so I can do it manually. Okay, now with this, I can make it into a block. So I'll type in block, and I'll call this table. Hit OK. For me, it says that it exists because I was testing it out. For you, it will not. And now this is a table that has a table block that has no parameters, no nothing. All you can do with it is move it around. Move it around. There we go. You can insert, and there's the table. Insert, pop. You can place it, but scale it, rotate it, right? That works. Rotate, but nothing more. This is how it is in Rhino, right? But now it gets interesting. If I go in here into my table block, I just double click on it, or you can edit tool. If I go in here, I can start adding in different dimensions. And let me just move myself over here because you might need to see this. So for example, I can add a linear parameter from here to here, which is the length of the table, right? Expand it up to here. It says distance 1. I don't like the name of it, so I'm going to go to parameters manager here, and distance 1 I'm going to change to table width. Table width, and expression is set to be 1000, which is actually the width, the current width of the table. That's great. If I close block editor, save changes, and I select it, select the table here, you can see that now I have a parameter that's called table width, and it's 1000. It's grayed out. I can't change it, unfortunately. We need to do more editing here. If I double click this, I hit OK. First step is to actually, or actually, no. Let's make it editable. So I'm going to expand this parameters tab where it says, in your case, it might say move. In my case, it says array, it doesn't matter. But I'll choose stretch. Stretch. And it's going to ask me what's the parameter that should be stretched, or the anchoring parameter. I'm going to use table width. Then it asks me to give it an area which you grab on to stretch, and the area is going to be this this table edge, right? So I'm just going to, first of all, point is here, and then it asks me for area. So it's as if I'm drawing a rectangle like that. Bam. And then it asks me what are the objects that you want to stretch, and I want to stretch the chair so that as I'm, let's say, grabbing this arrow and I'm moving it, the chair kind of moves with it. And I also want to stretch the table, and only part of the table, so it's only going to grab these control points here and here, right? So it's going to stretch the table. Okay, once that is done, hit enter. Asks where to place the stretch icon if you want to edit this anytime later. So you just place it wherever. Close block editor, save changes, select this, voila. You can now stretch this. As you're stretching it, you can see that table width parameter is also accessible now, and you can type in whatever number you want, right? The problem with this is that, sure, it's stretchable, right? But there's not a lot of tables that have 1767.5549 millimeters in length. So it's a little bit annoying without any snapping, right? So what we want to do is we want to have a library of lengths that you use. So I'm going to go back into the table settings, or table block editing mode. And here I'm going to choose, I'm going to select my table width parameter. And under value set tab, instead of distance type, instead of none, I'm going to choose list. And for the list, here it says 1000, but I can click on these three little dots here and add more. So I'm going to add 1600, 1.6 meters, 2200. I'm using a step size of 600, 2800, and then 3400. That's enough, right? Hit OK. And you can see that these kind of tick, 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 these tick marks appeared. That's great. Close block editor, save changes, select this. Now it snaps to these values, right? Great. Parametric. Well, semi-parametric. Now, if the only thing that is left is making sure that the chairs also get multiplied, right? They follow with the snapping. So let's double click again, hit OK. And we need to add one more parameter or operation, right? Instead of stretch, if I expand this, there's the array. That's what I was testing, by the way, right? So the array parameter asks us to select a parameter that influences the array, which is table width, and then asks to select the objects, which is going to be the chair here and the chair here. Those are the only two things that are going to be arrayed. Enter, and enter the distance between columns. So as it's being stretched, or yeah, as the table is being stretched, this dimension is also being stretched, right? And basically, what's the step size between the array elements? And I did a 600 millimeter step size, so I'm going to do that 600, enter, and then all I need to do is just place it somewhere, right? So now I have access to this setting as well as this setting. Okay, close block editor. I think that's it. Save changes. Voila. 4, 6, 8, and so on, right? So we have a parametric, flexi block, right? It's a parametric dynamic block where you can choose from a list of values. You can also, of course, clearly do much more with it. You can say, let's go back in here. You can add one more linear parameter from here to here and call this table. Oh, then it's table length. It's awkward. My bad. It should have been different. This should be table width, and this should be table. This should be table length. This should be table width, but it is what it is. So this parameter, and then I can apply another stretch for this table length. I can use the same kind of logic. Oh, that's my bad. Okay, we'll make this a smaller layer. Select objects, so we stretch this and these guys like that. I believe that's it. Enter. Place that stretch, and I'll just place it over here, and I'll edit it, right? So I can change the rectangle to be here. There we go. Something like that. And I believe if I close block editor, save changes, now I have the possibility to increase the size, you know, of the block like that, or decrease it. And clearly, I mean, this circle does not react to the midpoint of the table, and you could make it react, but this is besides the point. The point is that you can make everything parametric, which is great. Okay, so that's kind of it about the flexi block. That's what I wanted to showcase for this video, but there is still one more thing. Now, recently, for 2 years now, every year when there's new features of ZWCAD coming out, I always cover them. And I wanted to do that this year as well, so that we keep track of the development of the software, because I feel like it's very important to see if the development of the software is stagnating, or if it's if the developers are continuously pushing out new things compared to the Autodesk stuff that is currently stagnating quite heavily. Hopefully ZWCAD will not follow in those footsteps. So let's jump to feature review. All right, I went through all of the features of the new ZWCAD 2026, and there are a few that I want to show you that are getting me excited about the new release. So the parametric design one, I already shown you this, but this is for those of you who don't have a good imagination, I guess this is a much better showcase of the parametric constraints and whatnot. And this is basically, imagine having a drawing that's all tied together and it adjusts just from you typing in required measurements. Quite a powerful workflow, quite a powerful tool. This is really nice. Then we have the ZWCAD toolbox, which is basically a lot of, I can show you, a lot of smaller plugins. It's not plugins, but like small tools that enable you to have better life quality of life. For example, let's just skip back a bit. Just a tool that automatically applies dimensions with specific gaps to an object altogether, right? And it's not just linear, it's also aligned dimensions, right? Really great tool that just kind of saves you time, right? So that's the toolbox, and they keep developing the toolbox. I like to see that. Smart Match is great when you need to find all of the same objects, it seems like same blocks or so on. And it just kind of finds all of them. And it doesn't seem like this is a block search. It seems like it just finds lines that are the same, right? That look the same. And in this example, the person just chooses a few that he unselects and then deletes all of the rest, right? There it is. So quite a nice optimization in terms of speed and finding similar things. Speaking of similar search, right? This is for blocks, and this one is, if I remember correctly, AI. So you basically have a block library, you choose a sink, you say that, okay, find me all similar ones to this sink. It goes through your library and finds you all of the sinks that are similar, and then you can just fetch a new one, replace it, right? So it basically has computer vision where it understands, that sink was similar to this one. AI is not taking over, but is slowly being injected in our tools. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll tell you in 5 years. Smart Plot was great, but I'm going to skip ahead that. Smart Dimension is actually really good. You have, no matter what kind of dimension you add, the software understands what type of dimension should be, depending on what you're anchoring to. It's quite nice. Quite nice. And then lastly, we have the, where was it? Yeah, this one, the add grip. So now you can actually define how the text is moved away from the dimension line, right? Just a nice improvement altogether. So a lot of incremental improvements, some really major ones, such as similar search, smart match, and so on. These will help out quite a bit. It seems like there's a lot of automation that is released in this version of ZWCAD, which is great, which is what I want to see. And that kind of concludes our little video, our little overview. The thing is, I want to finish this with not a statement, but like a call to action. I will leave a link to ZWCAD in the video description below. Check it out, take a look, and see if in those 30 days for a free trial, if you miss AutoCAD, right? If you miss any feature that AutoCAD has that ZWCAD doesn't. And actually, maybe I'm wrong. I would like to hear from you in the comments if there are any kind of if there is any friction in changing from these kind of giants of Autodesk, Adobe, Graphisoft onto cheaper alternatives. I want to discuss this. I want to figure out how to make it happen, or how to at least soften the distribution between who's using what kind of software, or what kind of software is used the most, if that makes sense. So in the comments, if you are still using AutoCAD, if you're still using Revit, let me know why, and let me know what is it that would make you change your mind, and we'll go from there. I'll see you in the next one. Later.